back on the must-have classics, where we restore history one classic at a time. Welcome back to another episode of our 1977 International Scout 2 build. If you've watched the last few episodes, you've seen us go through and get this thing in the bodywork done on it, and I've got it running again. I haven't gotten it driving yet. I'm still working on doing all that. But I'm starting to get a little bit of nicer weather coming up pretty soon. So I really want to get this thing through primer and get some color on it coming up pretty soon. So let me show you what I've got going on here real quick. So I got the hood and the front fenders primed earlier this morning. I haven't been able to do the body yet because I've still got a little bit of work to do on that new quarter we installed in the last episode, or one of the last episodes. So on this, I want to give you a few tips on what I do on it. So first off, just on what we're doing here, these are getting 2 primes. So they've got primed, they're going to get blocked with 180, and then they're going to get primed again. And then after they're primed again, then I'll paint the backside of the hood, backside of the fenders, do all the jams, and then from there it'll get put back together, and final block will be done with 180 and then 400, 800 or 600, and then it'll be ready for paint. That'll be all done after it's put back together, and I do that so I can make sure that like the tops of the fenders match the top of the hood and all that, so I know it's nice and tight and nice and flat, just how I want it to be. So in this, I'm going to show you a few tips on how I do all the blocking and all this. So first off, what you really want to use is you want to use a nice guide coat on it, or a guide coat on it. And there's quite a few different options. If you really look into it, there's a black, like an aerosol can guide coat. There's also a powder guide coat, and those are really good. But honestly, what I like to do is a little bit different, and it's a little bit more cost effective for me, just because if I run out, I can just run down to the dollar store or the parts house and get some real quick. So what I use is just your simple rattle can black, and you want to just spray it on. And since it's cold today, this is a little thicker than what I usually do, but still works well. So you just want to spray it on. It doesn't have to be thick or anything, just a nice, mist over it all. There we go. And the reason you do this is when you're blocking, which I'll show you in just a second, once this dries a little bit. When you're blocking, it'll help you find all those high spots and low spots, and it'll also help you find sand scratches and all that. It works really well. It's something you definitely want to do when you're doing primer, but you can also do it when you do body work as well, doing filler work. You can still lay a guide coat down after you spread filler on there and block it out, and it helps tremendously, making sure you got it all nice and flat. And then so that way, if you're newer to it and you haven't figured out how to get your hand to figure out how you want it nice and flat and all that, you could definitely use that guide coat to your advantage. Now, on this, I'm going to use 180 on my door blocks that I have. However, on the hood, I'm actually going to get my big boy out and use this block right here. I actually just got this. That's how you can tell it's kind of actually clean. I used it a little bit on the bodywork on it, and it seemed to work really well, but that's going to help eliminate a lot of time, and that's going to guarantee that that hood is really nice and flat. So that's what I'm going to do next, is I'm going to start blocking that, and I'll actually show you in a second here. So I'll pause and then jump back in. I'll show you what to look for when you're blocking, so you can see the sand scratches and all that. So if you're ever doing this on your own, you know how to get it nice and flat and nice and straight, and know it's going to look really good. So that's what I'm going to do in just a second. So I'm going to get this paper changed out and start showing you how to block this. So here we go. So for this tip right here, I did get the paper changed out on my big block, but it kind of takes 2 hands to do this, and I need 1 hand to hold the camera anyways. So just like we did on bodywork, you want to make sure that you block diagonal and everything. You don't want to do, you know, this way, or, you know, you don't want to do all that. You want to block diagonal when you do this. And on this primer, as you'll notice there, it kind of clogs up every now and then. So to do that, just, you know, scrape it off right there, good as new, and can keep going. So if you look here, now you can kind of see what I was talking about with this guide coat. So I've already got started blocking all this, and you can kind of see right here, you can still see some of that. That means that that right there is actually a little bit lower than all this is. So you want to make sure you block all that out. And then you can actually see these sand scratches in here now. And that's what you want to make sure you block out. So when you see those, you know, just keep blocking them out. And when you do that, that's how you know at the end of the day that you're gonna have a really nice flat product and super straight. Now, of course, since I'm doing 2 primes, I'm not really worried about if it starts to go through the primer like you see right there, because it's gonna get primed again. When I do this, I know that that's gonna happen, and it usually will anyways, just because it's not always gonna be that perfectly straight until you start doing it like this, and you're gonna start filling in more with that primer anyways. So I'm not worried about that, because I know that when I go through and do the second prime and second block, all of that's gonna be covered up, and it's gonna be real nice. And then of course I'm gonna lay sealer down before paint anyways, so I'm not really worried about it. And I will tell you, with the second prime process, this next time is going to be a whole lot easier, for the fact that these sand scratches, they're 80 grit scratches, and this is 180 grit. So it's going to be a lot finer scratches, and that second block is going to go a lot easier, a lot flatter, a lot faster, and it's going to be what really makes this thing the perfection we're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this blocked out, and that should have us going pretty good. So then I can actually do second prime. I want to do second prime on this today, and then make sure I can get first prime on the actual body over there. So that's what I'm going to do next, and before you know it, it'll be done. And just like that, it is done. So I took the time and got all this blocked out. I had Heaven help me too. So the hood's done, and both fenders are done. So now I'm actually ready to do second prime. I'm going to prime them the exact same way. The block actually came out really nice on this one. I mean, I've got some see-through spots in the metal. That's the peak anyways. I knew that was going to happen. But really, the rest of it, it came out really nice. Came out really flat, so I'm pretty happy with it right now. The second prime, the first time I actually did 4 coats of primer. The next one, I'm really in between probably 3 and 4 coats as well, to get that way I have a nice base to block down. So that's the next thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to get the second prime done, and then I'll check back in and show you what we got, because after I get it primed the second time, I'm actually going to flip the hood over and get the backside prepped and get it painted. The backside of the hood is going to be black, because we're doing the majority of the hood in black anyways. So the way it's going to work out, it's going to look better if that's in black. And then the sides on the fenders, if you look over there, right along there, that jam is actually going to be the body color, which I'll show you in a little bit, because it's a charcoal, but it's not. It has a lot of flop in it, and I can show you what flop is and what I mean when I say that. But I'll show you that. So let me get this in second prime real quick, and I'll check back in. Once that's done, it'll be in the. Right now, this is about 6 o'clock at night, so it'll be in the tomorrow morning. We'll check back in, get that hood flipped over, get that prepped, and get some color on it tomorrow. I'm really happy with the progress we are. I'm actually not going to prime the body over there yet, because I've got to get it up in the air and get that filler neck out So I'll do that after I want to go ahead and get this. So that way I can just keep, you know, moving back and forth, have constant progress. I did get the body work done on it, so that's ready to go. I just need to get that filler neck out. So let me get this thing in primer and we'll check back in a minute. All right, so it's the next morning. If you look here, I've actually got everything flipped over. I got second prime done. I kind of show you here. It came out really nice. I'm really happy with how everything's turning out. It's gonna look really good. So next up, I'm gonna prep the hood and the fenders. So first off, what I'm gonna end up doing is I'm actually gonna undercoat the backside of these fenders here. And I do that so even though the way the Scouts are set up, the inner fender is mostly covered, I still want to do that just for extra protection and rust protection too, since what caused the rust in the driver fender was actually where mice had gotten in there and created a nest, and it just rusted through because there's really not much paint there. So with undercoating, I know that it'll be covered. Don't think it's going to happen again anyways, but just wanted to get that taken care of. So I'm going to undercoat those first, and then on the hood, I'm going to sand this with 320 by the DA, and then I'm going to red Scotch-Brite it. It's pretty nice, so I'm not too worried about, you know, too much. I thought it was going to be a little bit rougher than this. I hadn't really had the hood upside down yet, so I'll get that done, and then same with the fenders. All I'm painting on the fenders right now is this section right here, and then I'll go ahead and do this just so I know when that all goes back together, all of this is covered in the color it needs to be. This right here I'm not worried about because I'm not going to paint it. When I paint it, it's not going to have doors because it doesn't have doors, so that'll be covered. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and get these undercoated and then get this sanded. And if you want to know what I use to undercoat, I actually use a 3M can. Let me show it to you here. I've used some other undercoats in the past, and this one just seems to be the best. So if you look here, it's the 3M undercoating. It does extremely well. It sprays really well, and you really get everything out of the can. I've had some where you actually don't. You only get about half of it, then the nozzle stops up and all that, and it's, you know, it's, even though this is, you know, a couple dollars more a can, it's more cost effective in the end. So that's what I like to use. You want to make sure you shake it up really well. So that's what I'm going to do next, is get those undercoated, and then I'll set up a camera so you can see how I sand this. It's only going to take me just a couple minutes to get this sanded, and then I'll get ready to paint. Get everything painted probably this morning, hopefully before lunch. It's about 10 o'clock right now, I think. It's 10:30 right now. And then once I get these painted, then I'll be able to turn around and get that primed. I got to do a little bit on the door jamb I forgot about. So I'll get that all done, primed, probably put the wheel spec on it and get it rolled out to here, because this is where I like to do a lot more of all the paint and body, or like that part of the paint work. And then I'll get covers on all the rest of the cars and probably get that primed. I use a real low pressure when I prime in here, so I don't really get that much overspray on everything anyways. So anyways, let me get this done, and then we'll keep on moving on it. Now with that all sanded down, the next thing you want to do, and actually before this, I want to point out that if you saw me, I was taking a long time to really blow this off, and you really want to, especially if you have holes and there's crevices, take the time and really blow all that out so you don't have anything come out while you're painting, because that's really going to mess you up if you do. and you're pretty much gonna have to start over. So that's why I always take the time, blow all that out. Now, the next thing you wanna do is you wanna clean it off. And what I use is I always use spray away glass cleaner. If you go to just about any body shop in America, this is what they're gonna have in there. And this is what they use to clean off panels. It does a great job. It really cleans it well, and it does a great job for what we need it to do. So you just want to spray everything down. There we go. And then I use just the blue shop towels and just clean everything real nice. And then after this, you're actually going to take some wax and grease remover and clean it off a little bit more, just so you don't have any contaminants in your paint or on the panel while you're painting. There we go. And you can see how nice and clean that comes out using this. And then you can also check and make sure you got everything sanded. Make sure everything's feathered out real nice. And then after you actually do clean it off, I suggest, especially on these back sides of these hoods, is to go through and just blow it out one more time and make sure you get all the moisture out of these crevices, because that will hurt your paint too. And then after this, I'm actually just gonna check back in after I get it painted. And because I'm actually gonna spray the black first, and on the black, on this bottom of the side of this hood, I'm actually gonna use a single stage, which means I put hardener in the paint instead of doing a base coat, clear coat. Since it is the bottom of a panel, it's just always worked better for me, especially on black. If it's actually body color, I'll do that, but since we're doing black, I'm just gonna do a single stage black. It's just straight black, no tinter in it. All right, so there we go, that's all cleaned off. And then I'll clean off these fenders here in a minute. I got those sanded down. So yeah, after this, like I said, you wanna go through and blow it out, and then make sure everything's nice and clear, wax and grease remove it, and do all that. And then I'm gonna lay down my sealer and then my single stage black. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray this first. I am gonna lay my sealer down on the fenders, of course, but I'm gonna spray this first, get this painted, and then I'll show you the color we have, and I'll show you what I was talking about with that flop. And then after we get that done, then I can get back on that. And I may cut this video short pretty soon after I get that primed, and then we'll check back in. In the next episode, you'll actually see this thing go back together, get all the panels aligned on it, and make sure all the gaps are nice and perfect, and get it ready for paint. So let me get this hood painted, and then I'll check back in just a few minutes and get on those jams and everything, so we can see what we're working with there. So I got that stuff painted, I got the hood painted, and I went ahead and painted the fenders. So I'm gonna try to show you the color here. It's kind of hard to see, but what it is it's actually charcoal. And like that, it's kind of showing up more, almost like a pewter. If you see there, it actually is a gray, or like almost like a silver and a charcoal. So what I was talking about flop earlier, so if you look here, it looks kind of light, but if you look at it like this, it's a lot darker, and that's the flop. So this right here is actually a Subaru color, and before anyone starts with, oh, that's blasphemous or whatever, well, it's the customer's choice, that's what he wanted, and honestly, it's a really pretty color. I'm actually really excited to see this thing get painted. Now the hood, like I said before, it was actually going to be black, and that's what we have here. And as you can see, it's got quite a bit of reflection in it. It came out really nice and definitely has that deep black that we're looking for. So if this gives you some idea of what's going to happen, there's actually going to be some graphics on the hood that's going to make it more sense for this to be black versus being the charcoal. So now I've got that done. I'm actually going to go ahead and move on. I'm going to move this aside, get it out of the way. I let it bake some for a while, so it's actually already dry. Works out pretty well that way. So next up, I'm going to get the wheels back on this and get this primed real quick. And I'll really just check back in once this is primed. So once this is primed here, I'll pretty much be done for this episode. There's really not much more we can do. So let me check back in when I got that primed, and I'll actually show you how well the bodywork's going on this real quick first. So I had to do a little bit more work right through here, but I got all that checked out. I just need to do a little bit of sanding where I did these spot welds. Nothing too big. So I'll get that primed and we'll be moving along pretty good. And then we can actually start building this thing, get this thing back together. Well, it's been quite a few days since I was filming last when I was painting the fenders and the hood. And a couple reasons why on that. One, it got cold. And two, I was finishing up another project that's about to leave pretty soon. And you'll see a reveal video on that one, but I'm not going to share which one it is quite yet. You'll see that pretty soon, so check back if you want to see which one it is. But I did finally get these quarters primed. So here you go, you can see this one. And let me go around this other side. And they came out real nice. And of course the jambs, I don't have those primed yet. I'll do those with second prime since this is just first prime. And if you'll notice, I actually got something else done. I needed some space on some of my stands, so I went ahead and threw the front fenders on. They're not set down or anything, they're just kind of hanging on there, a few bolts hanging them on. But it definitely makes the Scout look good. Of course I didn't pull the rear wheels. I didn't worry about it in the long run afterwards. And you can actually see here, you can kind of see that color a little bit better now too. So that looks real good. I'm happy with how that's coming along. Engine bay looks good as always. A little dusty, but nothing bad. And then another thing we have going on is I've got a big parts shipment that just came in, and when I say big, I mean it was bulky, but it was like that wasn't that many parts. So let me show you what we have going on here. This will kind of give you a little sneak peek of how this build's going to move forward and what it's going to look like. So here we have a new front bumper, rear bumper, that tailgate insert for the tailgate, and that Super Scout grill. And as I said before, that front grill was pretty messed up, been cut up and everything else. And that's what we decided. Went ahead and got some front bumpers and all that. It's gonna look real nice, and you know, really set this build off. We're actually getting really close. Surprisingly, I'm hoping to get it painted pretty soon and get this thing moving down the road. But if you want to see all that, the only way to is to check back on this channel. And the easiest way to do that is to actually subscribe to our channel. So if you haven't done that, please subscribe to the channel. Please like this video, comment down it. Let us know what you'd like to see us build. Of course, we've got plenty of other cars in here. And I've actually got a couple more projects coming in pretty soon, so please come back and check those out. If you want to see daily progress of what's going on with all these builds, please check us out on Instagram at Must Have Classics, or Facebook at Must Have Classics Ralls, R-A-L-L-S. And that'll really do it for today's episode. We'll see you back in the next one. But as always, get those classics out and enjoy them as much as you can. And we'll see you in the next one.